We should feel something. When we chant Hare Krishna, we should feel something. And yet, at least for many of us, even after years and years of chanting, we don't feel anything. Why? Why? It means there's an issue, an underlying issue. So we'll spend the next couple of minutes just exploring the reasons why that we don't feel anything, we don't explore this, what we don't feel. There's a pastime just popped in my mind of Haridas Thakur. He was working in a marketplace, and somebody chanted Krishna's name, one verse from one shloka that involved Krishna. And immediately Haridas Thakur heard this, he fell into a swoon. He fell in ecstasy and he started rolling on the ground. And people were very appreciative of Haridas Thakur because they could understand this is somebody whose heart has been softened and melted by the holy name. And then one Brahmana, seeing the appreciation that Haridas Thakur was getting from the local people, decided, I want that too. I want that too. And so he also started rolling on the ground. And one gentleman took out a stick and started beating him. And so people asked him, so the Brahmana woke up and he just ran away. And so people asked him, what's the difference? They both fell on the ground and rolled on the ground. But one you gave so much appreciation and the other one you beat up. So the other one was pretending. He was pretending. He was just doing it for honor. Whereas with Haridas Thakur, it was genuine. So why is it that we are not moved to tears and ecstasy? We are just like Haridas Thakur. We just lose consciousness when we chant the holy name. There's reasons for that. And in one article by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, interestingly enough, he wrote this article in 1896, the same year that Srila Prabhupada appeared. In fact, Srila Prabhupada appeared at a very special time, because in the same 1896 Srila Bhaktivinoda, the same Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent the first English book about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to one of the universities. I forget which university it is, to the west. So he was the first person to take the teachings of Mahaprabhu and share them with the West, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And so Prabhupada appeared in this very special year. And as we know, Prabhupada not only took Krishna consciousness around India, but he took it around the world, including this African continent. Quite an achievement by Srila Prabhupada. So in the same year, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote an article, Bhaktira Prati Aparad. Bhaktira Prati Aparad. So what are the causes? What are the different offenses to bhakti? This was really the essence of the article. And in there, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, essentially, he says that the offenses are the reason why we don't get to experience the bliss of the holy name. And there's three types of offenses. The first one is offenses against the holy name. And every morning we chant these names. Some of these offenses are to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. We are all aware of these 10 offenses against the holy name. The second one is the holy name is offenses against service, seva aparad. So first is nama aparad, second one is seva aparad. So in the course of our chanting, of our doing service, we commit so many mistakes as well. Particularly with deity worship. And this is why, after we do deity worship, there's also mantras that we chant. Mantras for forgiveness. Because I'm sure our pujari also knows these mantras that we chant after addressing the deities and pujaris. Because we always make offenses. whether unknowingly or unknowingly. Our service is never perfect. And so therefore we offer these prayers at the end of our daily worship. Every temple, there's these mantras for forgiveness. And then the third one is Vaishnav Aparad. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this is compared to the mad elephant disease. So I'm just going to read to you. I'm just going to read to you a little bit about this Vaishnav Aparad. So if you want to follow along, this is Madhya 19, text 156. This is the chapter entitled Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. So we'll go all the way down. 156. Okay, I'll just maybe read before that, because I think the subsequent verses are also very nice. So we'll start with text number 151. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. And by the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person received the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So this creeper of devotional service is very rare. So we are in a very privileged position that we have this bhakti, this devotional service that Srila Prabhupada has given us, traveled all the way from India, from Vrindavan to come and give this to us. It's very rare. Out of, I don't know how many, what's the population of the earth? There's like 8 billion people or so. Very few people have been very fortunate to receive this bhakti lata, or this bij, the seed of devotion. When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually, by the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. As one waters the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed sprouts, and the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Virat River, lying between the spiritual world and the material world. It attains Brahma Loka, the Brahman effulgence, and it penetrates through the stratum, that stratum. It reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan. So it gives you an idea of how from a seed it grows into a plant, and how the plant grows all the way to Goloka Vrindavan. It's a beautiful visual presentation. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravan Kirtanam, the Bhakti Kripa grows more and more. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Sundar ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki Jai. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan, in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. The creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Now it's maturing, as a plant grows from a seedling, from a seed into a seedling into a fully grown plant, and it bears flowers, and finally it bears a fruit. And what is the fruit? Love of God, love of Krishna, Krishna Prem. Although remaining in the material world, The gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. So even after it fructifies, you continue to water it. Now, listen to this. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the bhakti lata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desire of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. There the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life. And in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant. So there, very nice verses that describe how by offending a devotee, even this creeper of bhakti can be killed, can disappear, it can destroy. So Vaishnava aparad, out of these three offenses, the other ones one can atone. Nama aparad, even seva aparad, one can atone, one can correct oneself or correct the defects or the challenges that come. But if one offends a Vaishnava, that's a different story. It really destroys everything. Because Krishna says that the pure devotee is none different from myself. Right? And so one has to engage with a devotee in a Vaishnava way, not criticizing a devotee and so on, or offending devotees. And here's some of the unnecessary creepers that grow with the Bhakti Lata. It's the diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All of these are unwanted creepers. So this is called aparad, Vaishnava aparad. You know, aparada means aparada, which means to go against the principles of bhakti. So offending a Vaishnava should be avoided at all costs, at all costs. And yesterday we were speaking about, who is a Vaishnava, right? We spoke about a Vaishnava is not only somebody who speaks words, but also lives by example. So that's very important. And so we'll get to the part where how do we deal with these offenses and how do we avoid these offenses? We'll get there. Okay. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, he when Krishna was in Goloka Vrindavan, when he was still around in Vrindavan, you had all these demons that would attack him and Krishna and Balaram and the cowhead boys. You get attacked by these demons. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur does something interesting. He says, these demons also, they represent certain anarthas. They represent certain offenses that we should avoid. And remember, these are obstacles to tasting pure Nam, the holy name of the Lord. These are some of the reasons why when we chant, we don't feel that ecstasy. The heart doesn't melt. So, we know Puttana, right? We know Puttana. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the Puttana represents the false guru, the anartha of deception. Because remember, Puttana went into Vrindavan. She presented herself in one way, but actually her intentions were different. Her intentions were very different. Her intentions were to kill Krishna. So deception is one of those anarthas, it's one of those obstacles. And deception means you present yourself in one way, but your intentions are different. Duplicity, the sense of duplicity. So this sense of this duplicity, diplomatic behavior we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this diplomatic behavior is actually an anartha, is a problem. It's what stands in the way of us tasting the holy name. So one should get rid of deception. Now, Vaishnav is very straightforward. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhagavad Gita explains like that the Vaishnav is an open book. What you see is what you get. So that's Puttana, the false guru, the deceptive spiritual attitude that pretends. And Shakata Asura, the cut demon, right, represents the burden of past habits. So we have to endeavor also to get rid or to deal with habits from the past. Because those habits can stand also in the way of us actually tasting the holy name of Krishna. So it's also important that we deal with these past habits as well. And then you have Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, pride and argumentative nature. Pride. Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Mother Bhumi, she says that the goddess Earth, she says, I can tolerate all sorts of anarthas of bad habits of people, but there's one habit I will not tolerate, and that's pride. Pride. And of course, here it's also mentioned not only just pride, but also the argumentative nature. We were discussing this morning with some devotees about the nature of inquiring. Right? Intelligence in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Deva gives the virtues of intelligence. When we say intelligence, what are we talking about? There's divisions, there's parts, there's 5 angas to intelligence. And one of those angas is doubt. Doubt, meaning that when somebody has a doubt, then one has the impetus to want to get the answers to one's doubts, to dispel one's doubts. So it means that one begins to inquire. Pranipatena, what is it? Tatvini pranipatena pariprashna. So there's a way, there's a mood of inquiring, not just the argumentative nature. Because argumentative nature really doesn't help the situation. In fact, it's an indicative, it's an indication of the pride in the heart of the living being. And that pride will not be tolerated. And it's one of those things that stand in the way of us tasting the holy name. So pride is also one of those anarthas or unwanted things that we have to get rid of. And then you have Bakasura, the crane demon, represents hypocrisy. This Kali Yuga, this is called the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is described as outward show without inner purity. Similar to what we just discussed also. You know, externally the presentation is one way, but internally it's different. So in other words, there's no consistency between one's internal nature and one's outward expression. And this is a big disease. I mean, we live in a world where the presentation, right? The presentation doesn't always, or somebody, especially, I mean, we see also with, with our politicians, they say one thing, right? They say one thing, but they mean something else. Or they promise one thing, and then they deliver something different, something different. So once, as we discussed yesterday, the internal one's psychology should also be consistent with the biology. In other words, the expression. There should be consistency. Otherwise, this is called hypocrisy, and it doesn't, it's one of the anarthas that stands in the way of us experiencing the Holy Name. So we should not cheat others, in other words. We should not present ourselves as something that we are not, be hypocrites. And then you have the Aghasura, cruelty, violence, harsh behavior. And especially if you go on Facebook, oh my God. People are taking each other left, right, and center. Even Vaishnavas are taking each other left, right, and center. It's like, it's sad sometimes to see the extent to which devotees go just to, you know, the harshness that we deal with each other. And we sometimes call ourselves Vaishnavas, but again, you know, we're not showing the behavior of the Vaishnava. So the harshness, we have to deal with it. The violence, the violent nature that we deal not only with devotees, also but with everybody. It's an anartha that has to be dealt with. And I mean, we live in a world where even, you know, President Trump, you know, is from New York, so he's like very, to some people, it comes out as, and because that's, if you live in America, you know, New York people are like that generally. They're very brash. They're very, you know, they come out as very, what's the word? They're very, I don't know what word to use. They can be, they seem very rash. They seem very aggressive, but it's just the nature of New Yorkers. If you've ever been in New York, they're just like that. But so here's like one example of also being of harshness when he deals with people. He means good. He means good in terms of, you know, the stuff that he wants to achieve. But the expression of it can be very harsh and very violent. Some people don't really take very well to it. So we should be careful. Essentially, that's the idea. We should be careful that we deal with this, especially not towards the Vaishnavas, because it becomes Vaishnava aparat. And the Dhenukasura, the donkey demon, stupidity and attachment to ignorance. Sometimes we just attach to who we are. We don't want to change. And the refusal to change and become a better person, that attachment becomes also an obstacle. We may be proud of like certain achievements or who we are as individuals, but in terms of devotional service, that can stand in the way of us making spiritual progress. So we also have to let go of what we think is right. And sometimes it can be very painful, especially if you're attached to certain ideas of who we are. And then finally, Kamsa, this is, remember we're discussing Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he speaks about these demons in Vrindavan and the different anarthas that they represent. And Kamsa, who represents fear of surrender. We are very, very fearful. I may lose myself if I become a devotee. If I surrender to Krishna, I may lose myself. I don't want to lose myself. But actually, the truth is, when we become devotees, we gain more than we lose. We gain more than we lose. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, of surrendering to Krishna. So when Krishna is killing these demons in Vrindavan, we see that Krishna killed all these demons in Vrindavan. So surrendering to Krishna means that these anarthas, these unwanted things, will be removed from the heart in due course of time. As long as we are consistent, we keep at it, they'll go away. But we have to make that endeavor. Just like you've heard the famous story of Mother Yashoda, right? Mother Yashoda trying to bind Krishna, and the rope was always two fingers short. And one of those fingers represents endeavor. So we should also make that endeavor. It's not that Krishna is going to get rid of the desire completely without our participation. So we have to participate. There has to be that endeavor. There has to be that endeavor and the desire to actually chant purely. So how do we deal, or at least what does Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, how do we deal with these anarthas, especially Vaishnava Aparad, where we offend the devotees by harsh words, diplomatic behavior, hypocrisy, and all these things? Well, Srila Bhaktivinoda fortunately gives us remedies to deal with these anarthas in the heart. And the first one is the one that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says we should wear around our neck. And we know that one, right? Trinarapi Sudichena, Tarorapi Sahishna, Amanina Manadena, Pitanya Sadahari. Humility. Humility. What is humility? You know what humility is? Try and explain. You can help it? Okay. Humiliation. We're speaking about humility. Yes, humility. You're speaking about humiliation. Anybody else would like to? Absence of pride. Prabhu?
Which is like having a full surrender to someone. Full surrender.
Full surrender.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? So, Martha? Yeah, the translation explains it. Yes, thank you very much. So, not being afraid to take a lower position than somebody. Like, for instance, when somebody takes guidance from a teacher, it means that one has to, just like you said, one has to curb one's false ego. One has to lower themselves, put themselves in that humble position. So humility helps because you don't think of yourself as great. If you think of yourself as great, then it becomes very difficult to bow down. You notice when people walk into the temple, when we think ourselves superior in one way, people don't bow down. You see that if people have a sense of pride, a sense of self-blown importance, they won't bow down to the deities. They won't bow down to Prabhupada. You've seen that? People just walk in and go straight to the deities and just look at the deities and walk away. So humility is understanding and accepting that there's something greater than you are and offering respect there. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also explains that humility is very important It's one way we can deal with these offenses, with these anarthas. And second is forgiveness. It's one of the most difficult things, isn't it? To forgive others, especially if you feel they have wronged you. Forgiveness is very difficult. And Mahatma Prabhu, he gives very wonderful seminars on forgiveness. And he says that he never thought that he would teach this course of forgiveness, because it's a whole course. He thought that devotees were beyond uh, holding grudges, but he found that it's necessary to teach forgiveness even to devotees, because, somebody can hurt us very deeply, and it's not very easy to let go. Letting go is not that easy. And so therefore he created this course to teach the devotees. So forgiveness is also an important thing, letting go of what somebody has done, or what we think somebody has offended us. So forgiveness is important. It's also an important part of, or the pathway is on the pathway to experiencing ecstasy and tasting the holy name, forgiveness. I'm just curious, how many of you find it very easy to forgive? Just be honest. Mataji she's being honest. No. It's why is it so difficult, Mata?
Yes, I don't know if there's a link between
That attachment to what has happened can't let go.
they say forgive and forget. Okay, they say you can't forget, but it's not easy.
Why is it so difficult? It's not easy, you are right, it's not easy. Because people hold lifelong grudges. People hold lifelong grudges. Why is it so difficult?
False ego.
False ego. Yeah, false ego is also there.
I thought I'm the right.
Mhm. Who also here finds it very difficult? Mata?
So this is that good master. Walk away.
We
That's
can't
unfair.
dormant.
So we do something that happens to us. Not what is the next one kind of day. But you do for the purpose. I'm not for that, but it's the necessity.
So you feel you don't want to forget because we feel like somebody's treated us like a doormat, and we don't want to be a doormat.
So we should not let people use us as humans.
Okay. So how does the touch tie to forgiveness?
Even you can't forgive people.
Okay. You can't forgive and forget easily. Okay. Mata, you had your hand up.
Me, I think it's difficult to forgive because we have felt so much hurt and it has made an impression in the heart. Or we can think of that person like so because of the hurt. Hurt doesn't go far.
So meditating, regurgitating, always meditating. Contemplating. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? Why is it so difficult to let go this attachment? Why is it so difficult? I mean, well, maybe let me ask this. How many of you have somebody that you hold a grudge against, that you find it very difficult? Just be honest. You don't have to give the details. You find it very difficult to forget. They did something. They said something to you, or they did something to you in the past. It's very difficult to let go. How many? I mean, I'm just curious. How many people are holding a grudge? Okay, only one person. Babu, you also okay? I'm just by a show of hands. I'm just curious. Yeah, yeah, almost all of us. Right? And like we were discussing yesterday, sometimes somebody says words that pierce the heart, and then we carry this. So it's attachment.
when we are living in the forest or Himalaya, that kind of thing, but now it's different.
Yeah. So this is the reason why Mahatma is saying also he has to teach forgiveness. He has to teach devotees on how to let go of this attachment. You know, Krishna says attachment, fear, and anger. These are three things that are very, very difficult to let go, to give up. And attachment, like we said, to something that's happened to us. And the holy name is also, by the way, it's also the cure to this. If it's chanted properly, it's the cure to this. So I would recommend, I would recommend that you attend Mahatma Prabhu's course on forgiveness because it's a detailed course. When he does it, you can find him online and see he's doing all the time because he says he found that devotees hold grudges. Sometimes these grudges go for years, and because of that, progress becomes very difficult because you're holding something, and that's stopping us from tasting the holy name. Because Krishna says, you have to give up everything. You have to give up everything, including that grudge, that attachment. And as you just said, giving up is very, very difficult. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, firstly, humility is there. One can take a humbler position. Secondly, forgive. You know what is it? That famous song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Forget the past that sleeps and never the future dream at all. And progress thee shall call. It's one of the only bhajan in English that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes. Forget the past that sleeps. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives finally the association of devotees, strong association of devotees. Is one of the ways of also giving up this attachment, is taking association of devotees. And especially those devotees that are very strongly situated in their Krishna consciousness. So there's something interesting that happens when we are able to forgive the past and accept that what happened is happened, and you just move on, right? Because you can't change the past. So if one is able to move past these things, all these anarthas, one is able to take the holy names, to take the humble position, forgive, take association of quality devotees. Something very amazing happens. One is able to enter into the holy name, and Krishna reveals himself, the holy name. So this is the beauty of these remedies that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments. There's a very interesting comment. There's a very interesting. I just thought of. There's a verse in the Rig Veda that explains the progress that we make as we chant, right? Especially if we chant without these things that we've been discussing, all these anarthas in the heart. When we're able to chant with these things, because there's levels of sound, or mantra moves through different levels. And the lowest levels is when we chant with the tongue, right? In the beginning, we chant with the tongue, but we can't hear, right? We just chant, we can't hear. So that's the level of, that's the central level of sound, where we just recite the mantras, but it's not really registering. And then higher than that is when we chant, but we all not just with the tongue, but with the mind. With the mind. You chant with the tongue, but you chant with the mind. It's like we're discussing today. When we are able to hold the mantra in the mind without it disappearing. So that's a higher level. And it's described that when one is able to do this, something amazing happens. Right? One begins to actually experience Krishna at this level. And then higher than that is when we chant not only with the tongue and with the mind, but also with the heart. With the heart. And this is where emotions come in, Tears begin to fall from the eyes and so forth. And higher than that is when we chant purely on the pure platform, Shuddha platform, where Krishna reveals himself. Prabhupada has told us that everything is in the holy name. Everything is in the holy name. Krishna reveals himself in the holy name. We don't need to go to the Babaji in Vrindavan and ask them, what is my spiritual position? The holy name will reveal itself. And so this is how it reveals itself. We chant firstly, it may be very mechanical, but eventually, Krishna reveals Krishna's nama, rupa, lila, and guna reveal themselves as we progress in our chanting. This is the beauty of it. You had a question?
So, like, as Vaishnavas, you're supposed to forgive the others, but if it's like, if they, like, if they like, if they actually involves violence, like they hurt your family members or someone you love, like it's not easy to forgive. So what do you do?
Okay. Some of you may know, there was a story where a young lady, uh, she colluded with her boyfriend to kill her parents. She colluded with her parents because why? Because the parents didn't like the boyfriend, right? They didn't like the boyfriend. And so they decided, we're going to kill. So what she did, she was at home, she left the door open. She left the door open for the boyfriend and his friend to come. I think it was the father, the mother, they had two brothers, so there were five in the family. So they came at night while everybody was sleeping. They killed the mother, they shot the mother, they shot the father, they shot the girl's two uh, younger siblings, brother and sister. But she didn't. She wasn't shot because she was part of the whole plan. And so after they did this, they went to the boyfriend's house and stayed there and they smoked whatever they were smoking, trying to enjoy the little time that they had. And when the police came, people had the shots, and the police weren't. And they found everybody except the father was dead. Everybody was dead in the house. The father survived, multiple gunshot wounds, survived. And the whole thing went to court. The young girl, I mean, she was about maybe 16 at the time. She's serving a life sentence. This is a story from the US. She's serving a life sentence now. So they were interviewing her to relive what had happened. And you can imagine as a father, you're the only surviving. Your wife is dead, your children are dead, and the other child is the cause. And you know what he said? I forgive my daughter. People were very upset. How could you? How could you forgive her? She's done this, she's done that. I forgive her. And he said, because I forgive her, I feel much lighter. How many people would forgive? How many of us would be in a position or would forgive what happened? Most of us, we wouldn't. We'd be holding on to the pain. We'd be holding on to the series of events like you're saying, but he forgave. He said that much heart, my heart is much lighter. I feel much closer to God. And because of that, something changed in the daughter. Changed in the daughter when she actually spoke with her father and her father forgave her. So not only was this exercise therapeutic to the father, but it also therapeutic to the daughter. And so this is why the forgiveness is very hard. But ultimately, we have to give and forgive. This the famous saying that holding a grudge is like holding a flame in one hand and hoping it kills the other person. The only person that it hurts is you. You have to forgive. It's very difficult to me. This happened to me. That happened to to my family. This happened to my father. But letting go is one of the requirements to move forward. Otherwise, one becomes stuck. What do you think about this story? Would you forgive? Probably not. It'll take eventually. Eventually, most people do forgive. after some time. Some people do forgive after some time. And think about this also, that when we don't forgive, it means that we are holding on to a certain emotion, right? And a certain attitude. And this attitude, what happens? What does the Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Whatever state of being one remembers at the time of death, that state one will attain without fail. So this will carry you to your next birth. And you might just be born as a very angry person. Is that okay? It's difficult. I'm not saying that forgiveness is easy. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. But it has to be done. It has to be done for our own good. Otherwise, it arrests spiritual progress. Any other questions or comments? How do we avoid offenses? I remember I can share. I don't know if I should say this. It's a personal anecdote where I had offended a Vaishnava. I was in a management position, and um, I was very careless in my words. And in my carelessness, I said something to this. There was a senior Vaishnava, and I figured because I'm in a management position, therefore I'm in a position to speak like this. And I didn't think much of it afterwards. The devotee avoided me a little bit. I didn't see much of him. He didn't come to the temple much at the time. But I had other issues to keep me engaged. But something very interesting happened. You know what happened? Gradually, usually, I would sit down for my japa. Krishna consciousness gave some joy. It gave me happiness, generally speaking. But something happened after I offended the Vaishnava. Gradually, I lost taste. I would sit down for japa, the 2 hours, it wasn't a problem. Normally, sitting down and chanting with other devotees, it wasn't a problem. But gradually over time, I found I struggled. I struggled in my japa. I struggled in my chanting. And I just couldn't connect the two, that it was because I offended the Vaishnava so I slowly began to lose taste. And at one point, I remember finding myself chanting, but it was just purely on the sensual level. I was chanting Krishna's name only on the sensual level, but it wasn't really registering anymore. The holy name became just like material sound. It just became material sound. It didn't give me any joy at all. It just became dry. And then I remember after some time, I tried my utmost best to rectify the situation, but it was just like I was losing complete taste, not only in the chanting, but I was beginning to lose taste also in the association of devotees. I didn't find any joy in the association of devotees. And I began to find fault more and more. And then at some point, I remember thinking, wait, somehow Krishna was merciful. I remember thinking, something is happening. There's a shift. And I don't understand. I don't know what it is, what happened. And so one day, I was sitting in Tulsi, chanting around Tulsi. I was chanting. So I had my job, my chara, and I covered my head, and I was crying. Tears were crying. And devotees were thinking, oh, he's experiencing love of Godhead. No, it wasn't love of Godhead. I was crying because I was finally realizing that I'm losing my Krishna consciousness. And somehow some intelligence came in, and I prayed to Tulsi Dev, and I felt like, offered obeisance, and I said, please, just show me what the cause of the problem is. Just don't kick me out in the association of devotees without at least showing me what I did wrong. I remember that prayer very specifically. And then while I was bowing down like this and praying, trying to just give me some intelligence so I can understand what's happening. What did I do wrong? So when I raised my head like this, the devotee that I had offended, I had said some very rash. harsh words too. He walked by. And I remember, there's your problem. There's the cause. And immediately clicked. So I went to this devotee and I fell at his feet and I said, please forgive me, Prabhu. I'm just losing myself. Forgive me. Because he wasn't talking to me and he wasn't coming to the temple at the time. So we went outside to go speak a little bit. He said, I'm very, very upset with you, Vrajvasi. And I'm very, very offended by how you talked to me, the other day. He was telling me how he's been, the words that I said to him had pierced his heart so deeply that he himself couldn't chant. He himself couldn't, enjoy his Krishna consciousness. And then I realized I had offended a Vaishnava. And because I had offended the Vaishnava, I'd lost, almost, Radharani was just in the process of kicking me out in the association of devotees. So I offered my obeisances and asked for forgiveness. And fortunately, this devotee was kind enough to forgive me at the time. He says, it's very hard to forgive you after all the stuff that you said, but I forgive you. And then gradually, over the next couple of weeks, my Krishna consciousness slowly came back. And I made it a point to try and serve this devotee as well. Just try to make him a priority the best way I can. So this is what happens. This is what can happen when we offend a Vaishnava. And this is why we just read Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, of all these three types of aparad, Nam aparad, Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad is the worst because it can kill your bhakti. I'm speaking here from experience. So after the day, it's not like these anarthas are still there. Sometimes my words are careless, but I always try to be conscious of how I deal with others. I try to be conscious of what I say to others. Even if somebody says something rude to me, I remember I was rude to somebody else and the consequences of this. So we have to be very, very, very careful how we use, like we were saying yesterday. Words can cut very deeply, and especially if it's done to your Vaishnavas, you can lose everything. So that's a tale of precaution. Take that as a lesson. Vrajvasi almost fell down. So I learned from his lessons. Is there any other questions, points of discussions before we end? Hare Krishna.
Does it also entail mental
Say again? Yeah, usually it's said in this age of Kali, what we think about, we don't really get so much reactions. Because if we were to get reactions for what we think about, it'd be very bad because we're always thinking about bad things, at least for the most part. But the challenge with that is that what we think about usually manifests itself eventually, either through speech or through some behavior. So we have to be careful that we curb it. We may think bad about somebody, but we have to try and make sure that it doesn't manifest itself in speech. It doesn't manifest itself in behavior. You have to be careful. But we don't get offenses. You don't get reactions for just thinking about it. Otherwise, we'd all be in hell, probably. Because of the negative thoughts that we had. Any other questions, comments before we end? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
I like that offenses and the Vaishnava aparat. I know that one. If we are doing some aparat in Seva, also if you're doing aparat in our Harinam also, that means that we should rectify.
Yeah. You should window shopping while you're chanting.
Paristan aparat, Tare Harinam, Tapastan aparadam nahi paritrak. If you offense the Vaishnava, there is no alternative. It will spoil all our life, people's life. But what's supposed to we do when we saw something is happened with us or things? It is not a conducive or it is not positive way to progress. So we'll keep distance. And if you distance, is it offer, it is offense or not? It means not close contact, not close communication. What's supposed to do? How you deal that situation?
With the person who offended
Yes.
you.
We know that one is by intentionally or that is by position or that one, whatever. Yeah. So what's we supposed to do so that we debate on a distance? Is it opera? Is it offense? We are not because if we saw the situation is not proper. So how we supposed to be?
If you are seeing, I want to understand your question. So if you are seeing somebody offending another person,
No, somebody is offending me.
okay, offending you,
Yeah.
okay.
Or it is not positively, or it is not uh, good for my progress in future, in spiritual progress. So how we deal with this?
You can keep your distance. You can keep your distance.
So is it not opera? Is it not offense?
To keep your distance? Because if you don't keep your distance, you might commit offense also to the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keeping a distance is not necessary, is not. You can keep your distance. Or, if you have the strength and the calmness, you can speak with the devotee. I didn't like A, B, and C. I didn't like what you did. This. So you give the devotee an opportunity to rectify the situation. And if you can't rectify the situation, then you keep your distance. What can you do? But like if I offend somebody, I'd like, especially if it's unknowingly, I would like an opportunity to rectify the situation. If a devotee gives me that opportunity to rectify the situation, I think it would be ideal. If not, you keep your distance and then let Krishna take care of the rest. I hope I'm understanding what you're asking. Because otherwise, if we don't do that, we might make the situation worse. It might move from a little aparad into like full-blown thing. I mean, I've seen in Mayapur, devotee get into a fist fight. Fist fight. So imagine that, hold it down to get into fist fight during parikram. It's not a very ideal situation. So sometimes you have to be sane enough to keep a distance. And if the other person is mature enough, they may ask themselves, why is such and such devotee keeping a distance? We used to have a good relationship, but now suddenly he's keeping his distance. And so they might come to you and ask you, Prabhu, did I offend you? And then you can share. You can share with them. Yes, Prabhu, I didn't like how you behaved. I didn't like A, B, and C what you did. So you're also giving the devotee an opportunity, Hare Krishna. You give the devotee an opportunity to rectify the situation. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
I think devotees are already. It's almost 9 o'clock, so I'll just stop here and thank you very much for giving me your attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vrajvasi Prabhuji.
Jai.
So forgive me for the long class.
This class will be 40 weeks.